Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Film Prods for myself, Matt, and my co-host, Tyler,
Hello.
providing completely unprofessional, 100% biased opinions on the movies of today, tomorrow, and yesteryear. So in addition to a 15-minute podcast about wrestling, which we didn't record, that we should have recorded, we're also talking about The Hobbit, Desolation of Smaug, and the two, oh my god. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Film Prods, and myself, Matt, and my co-host, Tyler.
Hello. Sorry.
Provide completely unprofessional, 100% biased opinions on the movies of today, tomorrow, and yesteryear. And we totally just didn't botch an intro that we won't talk about. Maybe when we finally make a Patreon, that'll be like an exclusive clip that you'll be able to watch, but probably not because we'll probably delete it immediately.
Yes, we
But
will.
Tyler, today, what are we talking about?
So last week and a half, I've been busy, clearly. Last week and a half, we wanted to start this kind of like mini series where we kind of analyze the Hobbit movies and why they work, don't work, basically like kind of like what happened. We don't really want to go super into depth into like there's a lot of studio interference and kind of stuff like that. We really just want to explore them from a kind of like a filmmaking perspective and kind of compare and contrast that to the Lord of the Rings franchise, which I think is fair game. So last week we talked about The Hobbit, The Unexpected Journey, An Unexpected Journey in correlation with The Fellowship of the Ring. Now we're talking about part two. This one's Desolation of Smaug and the Two Towers. And last week, I think we kind of started to break down why Unexpected Journey didn't really work for us in some capacity, but I know you were a bigger fan of it. Just want to give your brief kind of recap thoughts
Yeah,
on that.
so I think Unexpected Journey is my favorite of the Hobbit movies. I think it's the most like spiritually related to the Lord of the Rings, where it feels like there's like a director's vision. And although there are a lot of extended scenes drawn out past the point of reason, I think the third act really like elevates the movie. I think that the goblin fight mixed with the Riddles in the Dark is like the most well realized version of like a more kid-friendly Lord of the Rings while also still keeping that Lord of the Rings, feel. And with Fellowship of the Ring, like it's phenomenal. It's like a 5-star movie, and I can't say anything about it that hasn't already been said before. But I'm more excited for the Two Towers and Desolation of Smaug comparison because this is like where like my big changes come. But before that, what did you think of Unexpected Journey?
So I'm pretty on record by I'm not a big fan of the Hobbit movies. I love the Lord of the Rings movies. I think everyone does at a certain point. Like they either really like it or really love it. There is no one really dislikes these movies. Matt thought I
Yeah.
did for a while, because when I saw them when I was like 13, I'm like they're really good.
Oh, I had a good idea for an intro. I was gonna say, I was like, today we're talking about one of Tyler's least favorite trilogies, most hated
Uh,
trilogies, and we're also talking about the Hobbit trilogy.
Yeah, that's say that you missed it. You missed your opportunity. We're not restarting this one.
Yeah.
I think the Hobbit Unexpected Journey is. I can recognize its successes, but I don't like it, and I can recognize where the movie works, but it just as a movie just doesn't work for me. And I think a lot of that had to do with the more child-friendly tone. And I understand we talked about this all again on in much greater detail in our last episode. But I understand that the book is a more childlike tone, but I think there is when you're trying to create a movie that feels so similar to Lord of the Rings and trying to basically emulate a lot of the successes, creating a childlike tone like that just doesn't work, I feel like, for this movie. And I also feel like there was weak characters, weak development, kind of weak everything. I didn't like the roller coaster setting of like feel of the movie where our characters felt like they're in no danger, where at least in like Lord of the Rings, it feels like the characters have weight to them and the actions have weight to them. This one didn't, and it still kind of carries over into the next movie and the rest of the trilogy for me. Matt, so what did you think of the Desolation of Smog? What's your history with this movie? Tell me all about it.
So originally, this is my favorite Hobbit movie. I remember seeing it in theaters, and I was just like in love with it. Especially the Smaug fight at the end. But I remember liking Unexpected Journey when I first saw it, but I was like saw Desolation of Smaug. I was like, this is better in pretty much every way. Because usually the middle film in the trilogy is typically regarded as the best. So you have the Godfather Part Two, the Godfather trilogy. You have Empire Strikes Back of the Star Wars original trilogy. And personally, I think Two Towers is my favorite of the Lord of the Rings trilogy. So there's all that. So when you think of like the meta movie, you typically think it's like the best of all of the trilogy. Um, but having rewatched it, the movie went down quite a bit in my mind. A lot of the scenes I thought were totally awesome when I was younger, are eye rolling now. The fight scenes are just beyond gratuitous, just for the sake of stretching this to like an epic 2.5 hour movie time length,
Yeah.
and everything has like this really weirdly bright um, visual tone cinematography to it to try to hide where there's obvious CGI, especially in the boat, the barrel escape scene. Um, it's
Yeah,
just so
artificially
cringeworthy.
bright. Yeah.
What?
It's like artificially bright.
Artificially bright,
Yeah.
yes. Just to hide bad CGI, which doesn't even really do that effectively, in my opinion. And this movie, especially now that I've watched all the movies in a row over the course of like a week and a half, um, this movie starts to kind of butcher Legolas's character, and and I also find myself completely hating Keeley in his romance with Toriel, which is funny because I liked Keeley when I first watched the trilogy. Um, but yeah, that's like my general opinions and the history of my opinions on the film. What about you, Tyler?
So mine actually mirror yours a lot. I remember seeing Desolation of Smaug in theaters and leaving it and like foaming at the mouth because of like the teaser. I was like, I have
Yeah.
to wait another year.
Fire.
But yeah, and you're just like,
Yeah.
yes, and you're like, wow, that's great. But I really kind of mirrored a lot of your thoughts. I remember seeing Unexpected Journey in theaters and going, it's good. Like I remember like liking it in a certain capacity, and I remember seeing this and going, that's an incredible movie. I was also really young and really dumb. And I know some people like this movie, but I've seen this 3 times now. And the second time, I remember kind of like it clicked for me a little bit. I'm like, I don't really like, why do some of these scenes I'm not looking forward to? Like, it was like, what's happening here? Like, oh man, the barrel racing scene. It's what's happening? Like, why aren't I a bigger fan of this again? And
Yeah.
then I'm like, man, the Smog fight like wasn't as cool. And then I watched it this time, and I'm like, oh, like what happened? And I don't know how to directly pinpoint why my opinions on this have so changed. It's just that things have it's more difficult to kind of like excuse some of the errors in this movie. You're right. A lot of this stuff feels extremely gratuitous and contrived and like superfluous to create a longer movie to mirror the style of the previous trilogy. This one they also heavily move away from the central dwarves, where
Yeah.
it's very they like
And
everyone from
Bilbo.
in Bilbo too. Yeah, they move away from the main characters in substitute for underdeveloped world building to tie it into Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
It's really baffling, um, because there have been like Evangeline Lilly, who plays Toriel, is pretty on record for saying that she wasn't going to do this she wasn't going to do this series if they put her in a love triangle, and then she shot everything, and then all the love triangle stuff was reshoots.
Yeah,
So all
which
that stuff
makes me think like, what was she because every scene she's in has to do with the love triangle. So I was thinking like, what scenes did she have before?
exactly her entire character arc is her relationship, her woefully underdeveloped relationship to Keeley. And I,
Yeah,
I understand like that's not a new talking point for kind of like a criticism of Desolation of Smog. It's been its main probably detractor since it came out. You have to
yeah,
imagine. But what really struck out to me was how ugly looking this movie is. Because
yeah,
at least when watching Unexpected Journey, there is interesting cinematography. The set design, I put set design in air quotes because a lot of it was shot on sets and a lot of it's more CGI instead of the practical effects of Two Towers and Lord of the Rings. This one is just gray and gross, and nothing feels unique or interesting to look at. And even in the Smaug fight, everything just feels fake and uninspired.
it feels like you're in a video game.
Exactly,
Yeah,
but video games have usually more like intriguing set
you're right.
design than
I'm
this.
crapping on video games too
Yeah,
much.
you're
This movie looks way
way
worse
yeah,
than a
it's
video
just
game.
there should be like Lord of the Rings, at least in the Two Towers, has this really great sense of a lived-in world for
Yeah,
me. And in this one, they really try to hammer home that the mountain that they're trying to capture is this like holy land for the dwarves. But you look at it, and they show flashbacks of it, and it just doesn't feel like something you're like. It doesn't feel something lived in. It doesn't feel something that's tangible for a society to kind of survive in. And I think that's where like things start to unravel a little bit.
yeah.
I love the Two Towers, but if we're putting them on a ranking, that's probably my least favorite movie. Even
Interesting.
though I think Helm's Deep is incredible,
Yeah.
I just find but again, it's one of those things that's like 90, 98, 97, 96 is kind of like
Yeah. Yeah.
that ranking. And they're all A movies, they're all 5-star movies, but for personal preference, Two Towers is probably my least favorite. And that's just because I found a lot of the stuff leading up to Helm's Deep not as interesting as I would have wanted. Um, which I think is a really kind of weird thing because that's probably why it's your favorite. Am I kind of like all the world building and stuff like that? And
Yeah, also with the character work, like I'll be honest, this like having rewatched the movie, like I've watched the movies a lot, but I haven't rewatched it since like for a few years, especially not in all in a row like I did. And I found myself really weirdly relating to King Theoden a
yeah,
lot and Lord of the, and Two Towers, which is something like I never thought would happen. Like his character is so interesting, and then like screen time wise, it probably maybe he's in like 10% of the movie.
yeah,
Maybe he's in 10% of the movie, but his character's so well realized and the acting is so good. And I'm thinking like his arc in Two Towers is better than anything that's in Desolation of Smaug. Any character works in Desolation of Smaug.
yeah,
And the scene, my favorite scene in Two Towers, and like maybe honestly in the whole series is like this is when after Theoden gets cured from his possession from Sauron, and he goes out to the field and he's like reflecting the fact that his son died and he wasn't even able to do anything about it.
yeah,
And he has like the tulip in his hand, and the first shot of the scene is like the tulip is you're getting his face perspective. And he's and looking at the tulip, and it's like and then it starts the whole scene where he's talking to Gandalf, and it's such a good scene. And then like that one scene of unique camera work is better than anything that's in Desolation of Smaug. There's nothing like they put more thought into that one scene than I'm sure they probably did in like the whole like green screen CGI fest that was Desolation of Smaug.
So Desolation of Smog is very is a very interesting movie because
Yeah,
we watched it a few weeks ago, and it feels like it's set pieces and action scenes that aren't tied together, that are just there for action and set pieces, kind of
yeah,
like a purpose of that, and to kind of like because the movie's so long, you can't have a slow paced Lord of the Rings kind of like Middle Earth movie. But I keep kind of dogging on this movie already. This is probably my favorite Hobbit movie.
mm,
Um, and it's hard upon reflection to even know why. It's which is baffling.
yeah,
Um, I do think there is a certain change for me that I do appreciate, and it's tonally this movie's a lot darker than the first one. Tonally, for me, this movie feels more in line with the Lord of the Rings movies than anything else. They
okay,
very much go. We're going to remove some of the more childish kind of undertones and childish kind of influences, and we're going to focus on a more kind of serious and grounded Lord of the Rings movies,
yeah.
which means we're getting a lot of the same character beats. My favorite scene in this entire movie is probably with the spiders. Honestly,
Yeah, I was gonna
yeah,
mention that after you're done talking. It starts off really strongly
yeah,
because you get that darker tone, and you get like a darker side of Bilbo where you can see like the beginning of like the ring starting to like get him starting to become like obsessed and
yeah,
aggressive towards the ring. Like first when he stabs the spider and he's going sting,
yeah.
and that was pretty great. And then when he loses the ring briefly, and then that weird ugly monster comes to like it's like pretty innocent. Like he isn't like the monster doesn't know what's going on, but then
It's a
Bilbo
little
just like
baby spider. Yeah,
yeah, basically, and then Bilbo just beats the crap out of it in order to get his ring back, and he goes mine, and it
yeah.
plays like the ring theme. That scene is really great, and it starts off on a really great note.
Yeah, that entire so I do want to dissect that scene a little bit because that movie, that scene, that kind of sequence is the best part of this entire trilogy. So I'll
Yeah,
throw that out there because one, it marks that transition to a more serious tone because as they enter, I'm also sorry, I don't know all the names and technical lore of. I'm sorry, don't hate me, please. But they, they're about to go through the woods because they have to get around to the Misty Mountain and stuff like that. And they, if they go around, it's going to be a long kind of journey, and they can't do it, so they're going to cut through whatever woods this is. And there's a lot of dark evil spirits here, and it corrupts your mind. So as soon as they enter in, cinematography goes a lot grayer, and that's when the movie's weaknesses can be used as its strength. There's less sunlight. Everything just feels more morose and dying. And our characters' minds slowly become, warped and influenced, and they start losing their sense of direction. They start turning on each other. And then there's this great change when Bilbo sees a little light and walks up, and he kind of takes that breath of fresh air, and things turn a little bit more colorful.
Yeah.
And it's like, whoa, this is a really nice, like, this is a really intelligent filmmaking right here. He sees the Misty Mountain. He goes down. They're all gone. He's captured by the spiders. He escapes the spiders. It's wonderful, kind of like um, back and forth where you can hear the spiders talking when he has the ring on. It's like, ooh, that's creepy. And the
Yeah.
set design's really great, and the creature design's really great. And then they have the escape, and the elves come, and then it kind of turns to shit. So,
Yeah.
and then it's
Very
just like, all
quickly.
right, yeah, it's like, all right, cool. I think that scene's not masterful. That's very hyperbolic, but I think that scene is the best in this trilogy because it understands how to craft a well thought out scene with a sense of palpable danger better than
Yeah.
anything in this entire
Also giving
series.
like Bilbo unique character work as
Yes.
well. You're showing like the change in who he is and
Yep.
how the ring is corrupting him. But then, like you said, you get to the elves.
Yeah, and then you get to like the thing is though, Bilbo. So we talked a lot about part one about his character arc is done after that first movie.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a change. He doesn't have a relationship change. He is, and now the rest of this trilogy is meant to convince you that he's supposed to be there
Yeah.
because his big character moment wasn't it. Oh man, see, I'm already having trouble remembering Unexpected Journey. That's how like little the impact these movies have on me. Wasn't his big character moment? He just like body slams an orc.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just not. It's not like creativity. Just like this little dinky hobbit just like tackles a giant orc.
Yeah.
And
And you get like he becomes empathetic towards the dwarves. He says, "Well, I have a home, so I want to help you.
yeah,
Get your home back."
but that's his big character moment. He's like, I'm
Yeah.
heroic, tackles a dwarf, and you're like, okay, cool. Tackles an orc, sorry.
Yeah.
In this one, they actually try to start giving him a little bit more to do, but no character. It's there is a lot of behind the scenes stuff and baffling choices where this was supposed to be the end of the mark, and you can
Yeah.
tell that they took a lot of inspiration from Guillermo del Toro's kind of like vision. It feels like where that spider scene feels very much more in line with something he would do because there's no music, there's no score. You just hear the sound effects of the spiders being stabbed and like
Yeah.
the swords like cutting them and stuff like that. And it just feels like this very eerie. And when I was watching it, I'm like, I know the movie's not going to get any better after this. I'm like, that's a shame. I'm
There's
like,
only
but
like
how
a
could?
great little moment where Bilbo like looks back at the dwarf and he just sees himself.
Yeah,
That's such a great little moment too
yeah,
that I really liked. And it's like subtlety,
yeah. It's
something
it's
that's
enjoyable
really
stuff.
lacking in the rest of the movie.
Yep. Man, I don't like how this movie starts off. I just want to throw that
Oh,
out there
with the bear, with the man bear pig
with the man.
creature.
Oh my god, nice South Park reference.
Um, but
Yeah,
yeah, and then like they get so like when he gets when the man bear pig puts him in like brings him to his house,
yeah,
and then that's like the first real instance for me of like overuse of CGI
yeah.
because the milk he pours into their cups is clearly CGI. There's
Is it
CGI
really?
bees flying around, and
Yeah.
it's like why can't they just have regular? Why can't you just be pouring real milk? Like like that's like I was thinking I had that in my notes.
Yep.
I was like, isn't it way more cost efficient just to have a guy with a tankard with milk in it and pour it into the cups? Like why is there this scintillatingly white milk being poured into the glasses that
Just
probably cost thousands of dollars to animate?
think how much time an editor had to spend. They're like, you're gonna work on the milk for the next week, and he's like, can I do like the orc battle? And they're like, no, the milk. And you're like, all right,
it's like
fine.
it's like the guys working on Grand Theft Auto 5. It's like you are in charge of animating this box on this street
if
on
you
the
don't
ground.
if
He's
you
like,
don't
can
get
I
this
do like the
box
big building? No.
if you don't get this box right, everything falls apart.
Yeah.
So not only you're right, not only does it start off in a weird note, but I just want to talk about like the connecting lines between Unexpected Journey and Desolation of Smog. Unexpected Journey ends with having been saved by the Eagles and escaping and presumably being flown a decent safe distance away. By the way,
Yeah.
they on top of a rock. I just want to throw that out there. Kind of put them on like the ground, but whatever. This movie
I think it's brought
starts.
him to the Mines of Moria.
Yeah, it's been like, all right, you go
Misty
there.
Mountains. Yeah.
What this movie starts off having nullified that escape because the movie starts off with them being tracked again by the same pack of orcs, having created
Yeah.
no distance. So it feels like it's one of those things we don't even get the start movie where you don't even get the start of the movie where you feel the satisfaction and the reward for having won at the end of the first movie. And I understand that's a constant threat that's always going to pervade and be tracking, but there's like no like, hey, we start off, oh no, we messed up, now we're being tracked again. Like one of those things, it just starts off. having felt like the last movie's conclusion has been nullified.
Yeah.
Which I think is a weird choice. Does that mean like
Because they're immediately in danger again. I agree. Yeah.
It's just like whoa, and you're right. And then it's immediate danger followed by weird CGI, other immediate danger, and then then they enter the woods or whatever happens, and then there's like this weird. I'm trying to like piece together what happens in the movie because so it's from. Wait, okay, hold on. I have a bunch of thoughts running in my head right now. This is what happens when you get unscripted podcasts from us.
Yeah.
How long was that Smaug fight at the end? Because I'm running through the thoughts of what happens.
Well, at
in
one
this
point I
movie.
went on my phone, like during this really awesome epic action scene. I was so tired by that point. I could not get into it.
Do you mean when you went on your phone when Thorin was like bouncing on the lips of the dragon?
That's exactly when. That's literally exactly when I
and
was.
You're like,
we need to get to that later, though. You're
we need to get to
jumping
that.
way ahead of the gun.
We're gonna get to the butchering of the Smaug character.
Yeah.
This movie is weird. I do like. This movie doesn't. This movie falls apart with the elves. That's kind of where I want to get.
Let's get to the barrel stuff.
Let's get to the barrel sequence. One of the most egregiously stupid action scenes I've seen in a long time.
Yeah. Well, first you get the amazing scene between Keely and Taria where they have such great chemistry where he shows her the rock that his grandmother gave him and then she's in love with him. And then there's a scene after that where the what's the name of the leader of the Wood Elves?
Legolas? No.
No, that's his father is like the leader, but whatever his name is.
Whatever his name is. See, we're clear Lord of the Rings fans.
Yeah, and he's like, oh, clearly Legolas has an eye for you. He goes, well, I don't know. It's like, oh, well, too bad you can't have him anyways because he's royalty and you're not. It's like, what's the whole point of any of that?
Thranduil, played by Lee Pace, who is the bad guy in Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
Okay, he's Ronan. Yeah. Yeah, that's weird. So, can you detail that sequence again? Because breaking it down logistically, everything in this movie falls apart.
So first of all, Thranduil is literally taunting Taria. It's like, oh, like you like Legolas, don't you? He goes, oh, he's cool, and he goes, but you can't have him because he's my son and he's royalty. And it's like, what was the whole point of bringing it up in the first place? Are you just taunting her for no reason at all? And he's completely unlikable. There's that one good scene where Thorin is talking to Thranduil, and he's like, you don't know like my pain I've been through, and then Thranduil he's like, I fought the lizards of the whatever, and his like face starts looking all scarred up and everything, and you're like, oh, this guy's like seen some crap. And so that was pretty cool. But then it just falls apart because none of that, and then they make like Legolas like the head moderator of r/incel, and it's so weird. It's so weird going from battleship. It's so weird going from, I can't stress enough. It's so weird going from Battle of 5 Armies. Yeah. Like Legolas's character to him in Fellowship. Like they're literally completely different.
So Legolas has a bunch of weird character changes because in this movie, in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, let's take a look at Two Towers real quick. Let's skirt back. Legolas is this confident, brash, really cool archer character. Archer. Think about that.
Like he's like good natured too.
Yes.
Like
he wants to do good, and there's a clearly defined character with history here.
Yeah.
In Desolation of Smaug, he is a cucked super soldier.
He's an incel cucked super soldier.
It's amazing.
That has no remorse and slaughters orcs by the hundreds and broods angrily in the background during every Tariel scene.
It doesn't make any. Legolas. First off, I like Orlando Bloom. He's really good in the Pirates movie.
He's good in Lord of the Rings.
He's good in Lord of the Rings.
Kingdom of Heaven.
I've never actually seen Kingdom of Heaven. I own it on Blu-ray. Is it good?
Yeah, it's great. You should watch it.
Yeah. He is a good actor. In this one, I feel like you could see the paycheck in his eyes.
Yeah.
Like, it's very, like, you can tell that he does not know what's happening.
And you can tell, I feel like he's probably disappointed by where his character's going as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because listen, I understand Return of the King. We're framing this from a second movie perspective. Return of the King, I get, hasn't become like this super ninja elf soldier where he's taking down the elephants. I get it. But in this movie, when he's fighting in Helm's Deep,
but that's like one scene and he's like smiling and like he's like it like has like a joke at the end. In this movie, he shoots an arrow through an orc's throat and just continues to walk away.
It's just like he just basically like teabags him. He's like, yeah, fuck you. He's like, yeah, that's right. At least
he's like, take that. He just sees Keely's face on all the orcs.
he's like, you're just as handsome. He
Yeah.
just starts insulting he just insults him. No, fuck it. Now it's making me want to rewatch Return of the King because you're right. In there's that wonderful sequence where he takes down the elephant and Gimli goes, that just counts as one. And
Yeah.
you're like, that's the best character moment ever
Yeah.
because not only is that building on other stuff, but it's just perfectly in line with who these are. And you're right. I get people can change over the course of a trilogy, but his character for how he's established does not make any sense. You can have they really frame it as this character is solely off the legacy of the Legolas created in the Lord of the Rings movies.
Yeah.
There is no like his character arc doesn't make any sense. And we'll get to that more in the Battle of Five Armies.
Yeah, there's no like he doesn't get resolved at all. Like, you don't feel like he like his character arc is that he's okay with Toriel dating Keely, but then Keely dies.
But yeah, he's okay with that. He's mad at his dad,
He leaves his dad
because his mom died.
Yeah.
But it's just like, what's happening? It's a very weird mix that doesn't, and it's just, again, to shoehorn Legolas in because he's not in the Hobbit books. No. This is a solely Orlando Bloom was free.
Yeah.
He was his Pirates 6 check hasn't cashed yet. So he's like, all right, I gotta do all this stuff. It's a weird choice. I like all the actors in this movie. Martin Freeman again carries this on his back. This poor man
having very little to do in the whole movie, still managed to carry it on his back.
There's that great sequence. I don't want to say great sequence because that would give this movie more credit than I think it deserves. There's that great moment where Martin Freeman lets them all go into barrels, and then he turns around and they're all gone, and he just kind of like stands there and he's just like tapping stuff, and you're just like,
and the elves, you hear the elves coming.
Yeah, and you're just like, but it's completely because it's only Martin Freeman on the screen.
Yeah,
and it's just like he has to sell like confused and anxious and comedy at the same point, and he's crushing it. I fucking love Martin Freeman, if you couldn't tell. So should we go into the barrel sequence?
Let me just start off by saying that the bomber scene is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
The what scene?
Cinema. The when the fat dwarf is taking down everyone with the barrel. I loved that scene when I was 15, but now I felt so talked down to, so insulted. I felt my intelligence was so insulted during that scene. I couldn't believe it. I don't think I even finished watching the scene. I was like, this is the dumbest crap I've ever seen in my life. And to make it all worse, I don't want to be like a CinemaSins kind of snob guy, but then he jumps into another barrel, even though it was established that there are no more barrels.
That's a good point. That's an excellent point. They run out of barrels at the beginning. Okay. I love that scene when I saw in theaters.
It was so cool.
When he like picks up speed after hitting nothing, he's like rolling down, like he basically rolls down flat ground and is continually getting faster and faster.
Yeah.
I was like cracking up on the edge of my seat when I was
Same. I was like so giddy. I couldn't believe it.
I was like, this is the best. Look, he's so fat and he's rolling in a barrel.
But he's awesome. And then he stops, and then like he's in the barrel, and like he puts his hands out, and he has axes for no reason at all. Like, where you got those axes from? Whatever, who cares? And then
that's right. He was stripped of. Well, no, sorry, because they make a point of, they get axes from the orcs.
Oh yeah.
You want to go full CinemaSins, you gotta at least be right.
True. Yeah.
That sequence is. I thought the first sequence the final orc sequence in Unexpected Journey, whatever it's called, was dumb. And I thought it was dumb because the characters have no sense of danger. And in this one, it's even worse. It's like, somehow they make them unarmed compared to armed in the final movie. They put them in a terrain where they can't navigate it themselves, so they're at whim of the terrain. And yet somehow they aren't immediately all massacred, like right off the bat.
Yeah.
I hate this sequence. I hated it on a rewatch.
There's so many orcs and there's so many elves just fighting for no reason all around them. And there's like this really terrible scene where Thorin is like killing someone, and there's like a shot of him going down the river, and it just
Yep.
looks like you're watching a CGI like Jackson Pollock painting, and it's so bad. And
So,
he's like moving like this and doesn't look real at all because it's
yeah.
clearly just a CGI character. And and then a lot's like jumping on their heads and whatever,
Yep.
and like that's kind of cool, but it doesn't look real at all. So it's like, why is this here?
So our point here at Film Frauds, and I'll tie this point together. Our point here at Film Frauds is to try to create, break down movies from a less super academic review sense and try to just paint them what works and what doesn't work for kind of like a general kind of understanding of the movie. This scene right here doesn't work because it tries to create artificial tension despite not having any actual tension. So there's that.
It's creating an epic fight scene without the epic fight scene feeling earned.
Yes.
Or natural.
It looks. I understand. So these movies do have appeal somewhere. So in some avenue, people will find these movies appeal. The thing is, though, I just don't understand how someone who is a diehard Lord of the Rings fan can excuse some of the stuff in this movie. I think there's legitimately
I don't know if like the book fans are really excusing this movie though.
I
I don't know who, 15-year-olds from when we were in high school, I feel like high schoolers would defend this movie, but I don't know any diehard Lord of the Rings fans or diehard book fans that think like the Hobbit movies are a lot of the Lord of the Rings fans consider this to be like the Star Wars prequels of the Lord of the Rings movies.
I wasn't necessarily scouring reviews of this movie because I wanted to be done with it when I was done.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're just certain we have to compare this. So we have to compare this. Say let's put this in tandem with they're rolling down the barrels. The barrels are going down the river, and let's put this in tandem where Gimli, Aragorn, and Legolas were attacked by it's the cavalry are charging each other, not at Helm's Deep, but where Aragorn is Aragorn died. Oh no! And then they come back.
When they fight the Wolverine creatures.
Yeah,
yeah.
And you're just because that's basically time frame, probably around the same
about
kind
the same,
of
yeah.
What works about that scene for you in comparison to this one? If we're just putting it.
So the first thing that works is that the character work is great in this scene, especially when there's levity to it.
Yeah.
It's taken seriously because it's about the Riders of Rohan trying to protect the people, the Rohan people, to get to Helm's Deep while the orcs trying to kill them. And so first you get King Theoden's first battle after being cured from Saruman's grip.
Yep.
And his whole thing is that he's kind of a coward. And so seeing him fight is interesting because he's not the bravest guy in the world yet. But later on he become more brave. But you get the great character where you get the importance of trying to protect the people. There's stakes to the fight scene, but also they make sure to put levity in it with Gimli first getting tackled by the Wolverine, and then the orc climbing on top of him, and then Aragorn killing the orc, and every time one dies, Gimli goes, oh, because the weight's crushing him, and he smells it, and he goes why'd you take time to smell it? But it works for the fun fantasy. It's you can't really explain it until you watch a movie because somehow the Lord of the Rings movies are darker, but they handle fun fantasy better than the Hobbit movies, which are supposed to be more fun fantasy. And then it's funny because then the bigger Wolverine comes to top of the orc, and then Gimli's his eyes, he's like I'm about to die. He gets so afraid, and then then that thing dies. Gimli goes, oh, because more weight is being.
He's like, oh, I'm not strong enough. I shouldn't. I should have eaten my beans this morning.
So there's funny stuff there. It handles light fantasy better than the Hobbit. Any of the Hobbit movies do. In that one scene, because the actor who plays Gimli is phenomenal, and it's a funny set piece. But there's good action. You care about the characters. You understand their stakes, and there's there's relevance to the plot because first they're trying to get the people out of Rohan. Second, so people think that Aragorn dies. So and then at the end, you get the fun moments, but also you get the reminder that this is real. There's consequences to the stuff, and Aragorn may or may not be dead. You don't really think he's dead, but characters think he's dead.
So. There's actually a really great comparison you just made there, and why some of this works and why some of this doesn't work. In The Unexpected Journey, that sequence when the King Troll, King Goblin, it's like he's like, "What are you gonna do?" And then gets stabbed once. He's like, "I guess that will do it," and then
Yeah.
dies. And you're like, "What the fuck was that?" But
it narrowly grazes his
yeah,
belly.
he's like, "Oh, my belly," and then dies. And you're like, "Okay, sure." But there's that where they all kind of like glide down, and this is an unexpected journey where all the dwarves are like gliding down on that thing, and they land in that little crevice, and then the big fat king goblin like falls, and they're like, "Oh, my back! He's so heavy."
Yeah.
What doesn't work about that is, first off, you brought up a really good just like keyword. There are no stakes in that scene. At least in the two tower sequence where they're fighting the orcs and the Wolverine little creatures, characters are dying.
Yeah.
People are dying. There's actual like gravity to the actions because you're seeing like people aren't invincible. Like I'm like Gimli. I understand it's a moment played for levity, but there's like a serious like sense of like he's not a main character. We just
Yeah.
watched
But
Boromir.
it's funny. It's good because like the actor plays it seriously, which is
Exactly,
like
yeah.
within the context of him being like a kind of goofy dwarf. But yeah,
Exactly. So right off the bat, we have like an established sense of stakes, and it's a realistic sense of stakes, and it's a small scale kind of scene. And then in like the unexpected journey, when they all fall, and it's like a giant goblin falls from the heavens and like
yeah,
hits them, and you're just like, you would all be crushed. Like
yeah.
I don't get it. But comparing that to Desolation of Smaug scene, all stakes they try to create those artificial stakes, and they're going to try to do what they did with like Aragorn in Keeley, where Aragorn like falls off and you're just like, oh no, Aragorn died, but he really didn't die. Keeley, he gets shot, and that's it. He's the only character who ever really gets
With a
hurt or
poison arrow that with a plot that has nothing to do with the main plot line and just serves to extend the runtime of the movie.
you know what it does, it serves to characterize and contextualize Lake Town and the Bard, because then you get them having to go to Lake Town towards the end so we can get more character for the Bard. So all it's doing is just creating, you're right, artificial length for the movie. You could have had him like, you could have him be wounded and have him in Toriel, because
Yeah.
that ultimately serves to kind of like build their romance a little bit. You could have had, spent that time having them, have normal interactions that would build up
Well, they're gonna have quips.
but they don't have quips, right? And they could have built up, maybe some like uh, inconsequential flirting or
Yeah.
something. But instead, he's like, she's an angel when he's like getting cured. It's a mess. Bad CGI, no stakes, and it doesn't feel earned. There are no good character moments, and it just doesn't feel like a movie. And I think that's the biggest issue. Just
Yeah.
trying to compare and contrast those two sequences.
And I mean, with like the Wolverine thing, it feels like a plausible like middle of the act fight.
Yeah.
It's not like bombastic in any way. It just feels like like a group of Rohan fighters are encountering a group of orc fighters, and this is
Yep.
just them fighting. It's not like orcs and elves and dwarves all involved, and elves are jumping on the dwarves' heads, and
Yep.
like it's a stupidly epic for being stupidly epic.
Yeah, that barrel sequence feels as though it should have been it feels as though it's something that is the conclusion action scene of a
Yeah,
movie. It,
and it feels like with the Hobbit movies, like the epic scenes are all revolved around people getting brutally murdered and killed in like giant domestic fight scenes.
yeah.
Whereas in Two Towers, you get epic scenes that aren't revolved around that. So you have, of course, I've mentioned this before, like the Theoden Gandalf scene
Yeah.
where like what's his Wormtongue like it's
Yeah.
like it's funny, like Wormtongue is like a really good character, like an over the top evil good character, whereas the guy from Lake Town, whatever his name is.
Oh, the mayor.
No,
What?
his sidekick.
Oh, yeah. Oh, where he gets too much screen time in Battle of the
Yeah,
Five
like
Armies.
they're like on opposite ends of the spectrum. But you have
Balin?
epic scenes like you find it.
Bofer, I'm pretty
But
sure.
I think
Bofer.
is that one of the dwarf names?
You know what? Just keep going. I'll find it.
Yeah. So you have like Gandalf, basically performing an exorcist on Theoden. You have the scene where Gandalf is like resurrected when he's Gandalf the White.
Yep.
And like that's a really epic scene because you think it's Saruman coming.
I think
You
it's
just hear like what?
Balin. Balin is the guy's name.
That's another dwarf.
Is it? God damn it!
Yeah.
Oh, keep going. Sorry.
And so you think it's Saruman coming, but it ends up being Gandalf, and he comes back as Gandalf the White. Like you have that great character moment there. And it just feels like every epic moment in The Hobbit just has to evolve around people getting killed and like just giant fight scenes.
Yeah.
Whereas you have like epic character moments in the Lord of the Rings movies, or like unique exorcist moments that like help make the world seem more important, like help like with world building and stuff that elevates the movie. It's just exhausting watching people fight in The Hobbit.
Yeah. So there's like, I don't want to immediately jump ahead to Helm's Deep, but what I really love about Helm's Deep, and kind of, in response to your point right there, is
We've been talking like 45 minutes, so I might as well.
yeah. What I love about Helm's Deep is the amount of scenes dedicated to like them showing like young children being thrown into the
Yeah,
battle, where you're just like, fuck, you're just like, oh no, you're like there. It really shows like the desperation, and it really captures that well when you have like these young children like being handed like weapons, and they just look so like innocent, and you're just like,
yeah.
man, you're like, there's real
Like the weapons are
gravity in
bigger
this.
than they are.
Yeah, and you're just like,
Yeah,
whoa. And then in this movie, and I get it's different scales, because in Lord of the Rings, in Lord of the
a
Rings,
lot of the rings.
Lot of the Rings, it's the end of the world kind of stakes, and in this one, it's more of a personal one, and I get it, but there is just no. The Hobbit movies have, I think you just put it like, exhausting action that doesn't feel like it has a good reward and payoff to the 30-minute sequences that are often occurring in this movie. We should jump ahead though. Um, do you like the Bard character by Luke Evans?
I
Do you
like him
like
more in part 3
in part
than
3?
part 2.
I don't like him in any of this. I like Luke
Okay,
Evans. I will die for Dracula Untold. I don't care what anyone says.
I've never
Dracula,
seen it.
you've never seen it? It's
No.
kind of like underrated.
Okay.
I kind of dig it. He plays Dracula. Just throwing that out there. Like, imagine him going toe to toe with Tom Cruise in The Mummy. You
Oh
haven't seen it.
wow, I gotta watch this movie right now.
I know, seriously. What are you doing tonight? Just go watch it. Um, I don't care for his character. I understand they try to add more depth in development to him, but it's very generic. He has a family. He doesn't want his family to get hurt. Like, it's
Yeah,
nothing like unique or interesting or different. Everything is just
like compared to all the dwarves, he's like Michael Corleone
yeah.
character depth.
See, I can get that reference. Obviously, The
Yeah,
Godfather Part 1. Look at that. Um, I get it. It's just one of those things where they do nothing interesting with him. He's very generic human, center of like the emotion kind
yeah.
of
I have a
character.
family. I love my family.
Yeah, I don't want my
There's no
family to get
like
hurt.
there's no tension between the family members at all. Everyone's just happy.
Yeah,
And then compare that to like um Eowyn and her relationship with King Theoden. It's like
yeah,
he wants to be like a brave soldier.
yeah,
You get the feeling that they love each other, obviously, but
yeah,
there's like the tension between she wants to fight and he won't let her.
yeah,
It's like you can have smaller character and family plot arcs to help flesh these characters out, but no, we can't do that
yeah,
because we need to spend more time on either on giant fight scenes or the amazing, super great love triangle that everyone cares about.
yeah.
I was getting so sick of looking at Keeley. Like every time he was on screen, I got like boiling on the like it's never happened before. Like I was like boiling on the inside, and I liked this character when I first watched the
Yep.
series. But whenever he's on the screen, I'm like, okay, here's the part where nothing has to do with any of the main story,
Yep.
and we're just gonna have this stupid side story because we need to make the movie longer.
I like to think you're sitting there fuming, and he's just like, it's like, and Keely, and you're like, fuck.
Because he's the one to, like, other than
Thorin.
Thorin, he's like the only dwarf. They're the dwarfs of the two most screen times. They're also the two dwarfs that just look like humans, that look like
Yeah.
Aragorn ripoffs.
Oh, Keely does look like an Aragorn ripoff.
Yeah,
Right.
they both look like Aragorn ripoffs, and it's like you're giving these two guys the most screen time because they're like the most human looking. Like, what about the other dwarfs?
Again, I will say this again. I'm convinced there's a dwarf I had not seen in Battle of Five Armies when he showed up at the end. I sent you a Snapchat, and I was like, who the fuck is this dwarf?
Yeah.
I've never seen him before. You're right. Okay, so we might end up going on a long rant. Look, you want to jump ahead to the Smaug sequences? Do you want to go and talk about?
We can do that and compare it to Helm's Deep, I guess.
Yeah,
And, like,
I think we kind of need to do
Helm's
that.
Deep is like satisfying in its length, and
So
Smaug starts good.
Smaug is an interesting start. Yes. Do you like how Smaug turns out in this
No.
movie? Can you tell me what
He's
works?
bumbling. He's moronic, and it just deflates the whole movie when Thorn is standing on his snout at a vertical angle, and
Open your
fire
mouth.
shoots up from his mouth and doesn't hit him at all. And it's comical, and like all the chains are just doing weird things. Like how does one chain pull him up and then pull what's his name down, Smaug down? It's like, what is going on with anything that's going on in this fight scene?
So let's start off with the Smaug sequence. So you get that weird like and you're just like, oh, that's cool. Benedict Cumberbatch is having the time of his life. If you ever see that behind the scenes stuff, he's like,
I wish he did. You know what? Screw the Snyder cut. I want the Cumberbatch cut where it's
where they
him.
just go, he's like, I'm gonna eat you, yeah, and they just cut to like little miniature figures. And
Benedict Cumberbatch is good. He does the best he possibly can.
So this sequence starts off where they try to mirror already the riddles in the dark, where Bilbo doesn't solve anything, he just outlasts the dwarves.
It's the one scene of tension in the whole movie that doesn't involve someone getting their head cut off.
You know what? That's the best way to put it, Matt. It's the one they first off, I just want to throw this out there. That sequence doesn't work on any logistical level. They all leave, and then Bilbo goes, "Where'd you guys go?" And you see them going down the steps and everything.
They can clearly hear him.
Yeah, and they're like, "Hey," and you're like, "What the heck?" And then he kicks it, and then all of a sudden they're there, and you're just like, "Okay." Bilbo again. His character is supposed to be the smart one, the witty. Like his whole point is that you have to show his intelligence. But instead, this sequence starts off him not solving an issue by thinking about a puzzle. He just solves it because he doesn't give up as quickly, which I guess is
he stays for an extra 5 seconds.
Yeah, he sees the moon and he's like, "Oh my god!" I was so annoyed by it. But I remember when like they all leave and I was like, "What's happening?" Because I couldn't remember how they got in again. But it's just like it feels like it's such a what do we do with Bilbo? His character is not meant to be someone that like is stronger than the dwarves, or at least I don't think that's what he's supposed to be in these movies. And then he solves it's one of those small little moments that feels like it just breaks down a lot of the movie for me. I don't really like it. But then Bilbo goes in, he finds the Arkenstone like immediately. By the way, just want to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Smaug awakens.
Smaug.
What'd I say?
It's in Mog.
Smaug awakens. What did you think of the start of this? So,
it like I like the emphasis on the size of Smaug.
Mm-hmm.
Like when like Bilbo's went like this, you just can't believe how big Smaug is.
Yep.
That stuff was really good. And their interaction is pretty decent. It goes on too long. I kind of forgot. Like I fully lost track of the conversation by the end of it. It started with him calling him Barrel Rider.
Yeah.
There's it's not as good as the Riddles in the Dark scene by any stretch of the imagination.
Yep.
Because it's like a game of wits in that, and it's in this movie it's just like Bilbo they're just talking for the sake of runtime. It's like they're like, how much longer do we got? We gotta keep talking.
Barrel Rider.
I can't remember anything to talk about in this scene really, except for the fact that Smaug calls him Barrel Rider.
So,
whereas I remember pretty much everything to talk about in the Riddles in the Dark scene.
So you ready for this? Bilbo. This is where we're gonna diverge. I wish they talked longer. I thought the most interesting part about this movie was their weird conversation where Smaug is just kind of flexing. He's just like, I'm the best. You can't beat me. I'm going to kill you, but I'm going to toy with you for a little bit. Yeah. I wanted more of that because that's what these two fucking movies have been building towards.
Yeah.
The entire point of this fucking trilogy was to beat the dragon, was to kill the dragon, to get rid of the dragon. And instead of having, a well-developed dragon character, and have that be shown through and show that hey, look, this is our time for Bilbo to shine. It's over like that. I thought it was so quick and I forgot. I was like, that's it. And then the next fucking 30 minutes are showing, like you said, the dragon is a moron, a bumbling buffoon of a threat.
Yeah.
That should have no way be taken. It's baffling. I could not believe how much I was so uninterested in this sequence.
It just glosses over your eyes at some point because you feel like there's no risk of any of the dwarves getting killed. And it's hard to talk in depth about it because there's nothing going on. It's just set pieces that make no sense at all. And how they construct that giant gold statue thing, and it's Smaug is mighty and ferocious until he's not. Until the script needs him not to be, and then he can't kill, and then he can't do anything. It's like a Three Stooges sketch.
That's the best way to put it. There is no substance to this scene. You're right. It's more of that bullshit roller coaster, but the threat has been extremely magnified.
Yeah.
And it does not work because you have this really great establishment where Smaug is clearly this vain and kind of like overconfident character, and I guess you can rework that he's not taking the threat seriously, but it just doesn't work when they put the dwarves in such immediate danger that he could have easily just like. So what doesn't work about a few things? I just want to clarify because I was baffled at how much I did not like the sequence on a rewatch. The dragon hates Thorin, like
Yeah.
despises him, and that's established. But there are multiple sequences where Smaug can just kill Thorin like right off the bat, and
Yeah.
it's when he's standing on the snout is that key one where you're like, what?
That's like the most infuriating scene I think in the whole movie.
It has to be because you spend 30 minutes prior establishing that he's like, I can smell Thorin through like the mountain. You're like,
Mm.
I can smell it, and you're like, damn, okay. You're like, I get the beef here, and he just doesn't. I don't. It really, really bothered me. Like, I can't
And to
stress.
make to the icing on the cake of how bad the scene is,
Yeah.
they have the audacity to cut to the Keely dying of the poison
That's right.
plotline that has nothing to do with like in Helm's Deep, like when it's so epic. And then I think about a problem with the Ents in Helm's Deep. But like I think it's almost comical how they quit, how it's this super amazing fight scene, and they cut to Treebeard finally figuring out that Merry and Pippin aren't actually orcs.
Like we've come to a decision and agreed that you guys are hobbits, and you're like, what's happening? And
Yeah, like yeah, we know that.
we know it.
Even rewatching, even having seen this movie like 1,000 times, like I was like that scene was so funny to me.
Yeah.
And it's like and then like Treebeard's talking so slowly, and like Merry and Pippin are also like discouraged, like they're like you're just figuring that out now, like we have people to fight. And then it cuts back to the Helm's Deep scene. It's very satisfying in my opinion. But then they cut to this stupid Keely stupid. Did I mention it's stupid?
No, I
Stupid
don't
fight,
think
stupid.
you did.
And then like so show don't tell is like the big thing for writers. This scene basically of stupid Tariel being like shrouded in white light is the worst version of show don't tell I've ever seen in a movie. I would have preferred him to just say, "Oh, I love you," versus the most obvious.
Wait. What's worse, this or the Man of Steel Jesus imagery, where he flies out of the ship in the shape of the cross? What's
I don't know.
worse?
I think Desolation of Smaug. This is worse.
Wow, damn. Where she's like shrouded in
The
angelic
one thing
light.
that saves the scene though is when I saw it in theaters. Like there's like a dad and a daughter behind me, and during that scene, the dad was like, "That's what your mother looked like to me the first time I saw her."
And you're like,
And
oh,
it's like ba da 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 like the Kingston thing. It's like that's like the coolest quip I've ever heard in my life.
damn.
It's like I always think of that moment when I see that scene because it was so funny because like the daughter laughed and like I laughed too because that was funny. But
I like to imagine you're just like you're gonna adopt me now. You just turn around, you're like, hey, what's up?
But that's like the most egregious like they love each other.
Look at you,
Boom,
see it?
like hitting it over the head scene I've ever seen in my life.
The point of cutting away from that is to bring Legolas in so he and Toriel can go find the other army that's being the whole point of that sequence.
And they have to have a mini boss fight with the other main orc that's only there just for like us to have a boss battle with in like in the other two movies.
He looks the exact same as the main orc. I could not believe when they're like, it's just like the big white orc. He's like, you, and he comes out. It's basically just the same person.
Yeah.
You're like, what the fuck is this? You're like, what's happening? We have completely glossed over so much of this movie. Gandalf like fights Sauron.
But there's nothing to say. It has nothing to do with the Hobbit movie.
You're right.
And then even the pale orc has a scene with the necromancer that has nothing to do with any of the plot.
But we're just completely skipping over the fact that like it just doesn't like it, so I hate Avengers Age of Ultron. I think it's one of my least favorite. It is my second or least favorite Marvel movie ever. And I don't like it because everything feels like every single line of dialogue feels very contrived and fake and bullshit. And a lot of the movie is set up to develop a further world without actually focusing on any kind of, developed characters or anything interesting. I hate Avengers Age of Ultron. This movie pisses me off so much because of that sequence. I gotta be honest, I gave this movie like 3 stars on Letterboxd. The more I talk about it, the more I don't like this movie.
Yeah, the more I kind of want to give it lower.
The more I'm really baffled by this.
I think I was in denial at the time I did my review.
I think so too, because the more we break this down, the more I'm like, what's like what actually happens in it that I enjoy. And I like the darker tone.
Yeah.
I like the start of the Smaug sequence.
I like the forest stuff.
The forest stuff, the spider stuff's probably
The
the
barrel
best.
stuff is okay until it goes on for 20 minutes longer than it should.
The barrel stuff is never okay. Let's be realistic. The barrel stuff. When is the barrel stuff okay? Please tell me when the barrel stuff's okay. When is the barrel stuff
When it
okay?
ends.
When he gets shot, and you're like, yeah. When
Yeah,
Keely
you think
gets
when you briefly hope that Keyless is dead.
he dead, did the arrow go a little bit higher? What if
Yeah.
what if he got shot like right in the groin, and it's like, well, there goes that love triangle.
Yeah, I wish that would have been perfect.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'm just getting mad thinking about this movie. Why does Helm's Deep work? Because we're talking about the final
Because
battle.
it has a build
Yep.
for 2 movies. It's basically like a 6-hour build to it.
Yep.
There's stakes. There are stakes to it. There are characters you care about because they take the time to develop characters. And there's like a progression to it. So you have like the initial attack on the wall where
Yep.
the human and elf alliance occurs. That's a big plot point. Elves finally make a stand against Sauron,
Yep.
which is really big. You have that, and then you have things. You have like the thing with the orc sacrificing himself to blow up the wall,
Yep.
and that's when things start to take a downturn. And then you have their last ditch attempts at fending off the orcs until Gandalf comes, and then you have the Gandalf and the Rohan army come and
That's a great sequence.
with the sun rising at the same time and
Yep.
decimating the orcs, and it's great. So there's progression there. It's not just people running around cutting off people's heads for no reason, just for the sake of having it to happen. And like again, the character moments, like Theoden is a coward up until this point, and then when they're finally at their last, when death is a near certainty, he goes, "We'll lead the charge out there." You get that great character moment. You get the great moment where it's established and it's
Matt's getting a phone call. I'll be right back.
So you have like during the Balrog fight, you have that little scene where Gimli can't make the jump over the steps.
Yeah.
And he goes, no one tosses the dwarf, and then he jumps himself. And then you have the scene in Helm's Deep where he can't make the jump to fight the orcs, and he goes to Aragorn, he goes, "Toss me." And Aragorn's kind of like teasing him a bit. He goes, "Don't tell the elf." You have great character moments. You have stakes. You have people you care about.
Yep.
And none of that is really in. Like,
So,
who cares if one of the dwarves gets scorched and
gets
eaten alive by Smaug? No one cares.
So you've basically just been talking about why Helm's Deep works from a character, narrative, like thematic.
Like there's a structure to the battle itself. That makes sense.
It is narratively, thematically, everything works. It also works on a technical level, and this is where a lot of things start to vary for me for Desolation of Smaug. Helm's Deep is like dark in the night with rain, and there's this wonderful, wonderful shot where you get the orc army and the wall that they're fighting against, and they're just all banging, and it's just like this, like you just feel like
there's like torches too that add the littlest bit of light to it, and it's great. Yeah,
it feels like there's actual like weight to this stuff.
Because the orcs look intimidating in the Lord of the Rings.
But you want to know why they look intimidating? Because they didn't.
They're people. They took time into making like makeup and stuff.
Yes, that's the thing is they didn't do this long shot to show. There was at most they showed like 200 to 300 well-designed orcs, but you get the sense you're like, God damn, they're so threatening. How the fuck are they gonna survive this? So boom, technically, like it's dark and it's rainy and it's dark. It's just there's a sense of death coming just through a technical aspect of it. It's wonderful. Then you get to fucking Desolation of Smaug. What does that look like? Like Smaug is. I like the CGI on Smaug, by the way. I'll throw that there. Smaug is a wonderfully designed character. It's just like gray pillars, and dilapidated everything. And I get
characters are like running around and not taking any damage from anything.
Nope.
Not saying anything like that's unique to like who they are, or like, not that I need like people to be quipping, but like the small quips in Helm's Deep, like when like Legolas and Gimli are counting the kills they have.
Yep.
And then he goes, "Oh, I'm at 13," and then like I was like, "I'm at 26." He goes, "Ah!"
He's like, "Ah." What about where Gimli is trying to see over the wall and he can't? And like, "You want to lift you?" He's like, "What's happening?" And you're just like, they're character moments that feel real. Because you're right. Even in like there's like this wonderful like gallows humor is a real thing. People making jokes on like about horrific like events that may occur is actually how people cope and like deal with situations. In Desolation of Smaug, there's this weird sense of optimism, and I
Also,
don't like
I
it.
feel like all the characters are just miserable. Like Thorn's like, "Oh, you're fat, Smaug."
No, but the thing is, like, there's this weird sense of optimism that they can beat Smaug, but there isn't like, I don't know, like this just there's a lot of things that just feel wrong. I
Yeah,
can't like it's so hard to put into words what just stands out about this that just like something just feels artificial. And I feel like that's the best way to
it
describe
feels
this movie.
like a modern epic movie that needs to have like you lose that humanity to it. There's just no humanity in the movie as it
It,
goes along.
is this the best representation of the modern epic movie, or is Battle of Five Armies the best representation?
Battle of Armies.
I think it might be this one because this movie attempts to have character,
True. Yeah,
and
actually,
it's
yeah, I would agree with you. That's
because
Destination.
Battle of the Five Armies is just 2 hours of
Battle of Armies
conflict.
is just watching someone play Civilization.
You know, I was thinking about the Battle of Five Armies and how just vapid and lifeless and just dumb it is.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I can't wait to rant about this, but my rant might just be like 5 minutes, and then I'm like, there's nothing really substance to it. But you're right. Helm's Deep works on legitimately every single level. It's probably the best, like, if we're talking from a solely technical narrative, everything, it's probably the best sequence in
And
all
it
of
still
Lord of the
looks,
Rings.
yeah, it still looks brilliant.
So,
It's crazy how good this movie still looks.
but there's also that, like, in Helm's Deep, there's this wonderful escalation of conflict.
Yeah.
Because there's that wonderful sense, because there's that nice turning where they're starting to kill a lot of the orcs as the elves come and there's hope, and they're starting to take care, like they're killing the orcs, and you're just like, maybe they stand a chance. And then
Yeah.
and then things start to slowly like build over, and then that one orc like explodes the wall, and
Yeah.
you're just like, oh no. You're like, and that's when like the real sense of like they're gonna lose kind of comes
Yeah.
in.
And then when they get to that tower, and it's just the acceptance where like
Yeah,
we're gonna die, but we're
yeah,
gonna try to fight it as long as we can. It was so dark, and then when that sun peaks over,
yeah,
you finally get the littlest bit of light, and it's like just from a visual standpoint, like there's so much attention put into that one
yeah.
like one element of the film, and it's so great. And
I
then you haven't even talked about any of the Sam, Frodo,
Oh,
Gollum stuff,
that's
which is
right.
all great. Like there's a whole sequence to set to Frodo trying to get um, Gollum to like get him captured by Faramir's men.
Yeah.
Like that's like a whole sequence that he has to do, and like all the Gollum stuff is so great. Like when he's arguing with himself. Like
Yeah.
so many great character moments that are just completely absent from.
Can I throw out this hot take? Gollum is the best in this movie. He I struggle with Gollum in some capacity in Return of the King.
Yeah.
But in this one, I think he really shines. Also, Frodo is the least interesting character in Lord of the Rings. Just throw it out there. He gets more interesting in Return of the King, but when he's
Yeah.
struggling with that conflict.
I
But
still like Frodo.
oh, I like Frodo too, but like Samwise's like journey is so much more interesting to me than because Samwise
Yeah.
has that more like standard typical like hero's journey.
He's like more of a failure too. Like he's like chubby,
Yeah,
and all that, and it feels he's not like an Aragorn. He's like
no,
barely, and like everyone's all dirt, like they're all dirty from climbing mountains all the
yeah,
time. Just feels so lived in.
yeah.
You
And in this
feel
one,
their journey.
what I there's a sequence in
There's not a
Desolation.
speck of dirt in this whole movie.
Yeah, no, because it's all in fucking see. It's all in blue screen. There's this interesting sequence. Think of like the Mines of Moria, where Gimli is like mourns all of like oh
Yeah,
everyone died, and it's like it's undercut by like there's a little bit of like Pippin, like knocks the bucket over, and
yeah,
Gandalf like what's it called, like berates him. And in
yeah,
this one, they find the bodies of their rest of their people who thought they would survive, and they're all just like corpses, and they're just like, oh no, and then they just keep going,
yeah,
and you're just like, what? You're like what happened? Like it's like there's no, because they immediately go from oh no to we're gonna beat the dragon. It's like this weird like thing, like in Fellowship, that sequence works because you're given that brief moment of time for Gimli to mourn, but it's completely undercut by like a natural act that would take him out of that.
yeah,
In this one, it's just a quick grieving, but then immediately like a switch. There's no time for us to sit with like your entire like community of dwarves is just gone. Like you guys
yeah.
are the last ones. It's really I don't know if you got that from it. There's like no emotional time in this
No,
movie.
there is no emotional tie to this movie.
Okay. I think that's pretty representative by the fact that not half this movie, I was being hyperbolic there, is dedicated to an underdeveloped relationship that was clearly
Feels like
thrown
half
in.
the movie.
It was like half the movie, yeah.
But it's crazy to think that all like the narrative arcs in Lord of the Rings, like there's so many like little character arcs in
Yep.
in Lord of the Rings, like at least 20 or something character arcs that are all like paid off in each movie,
Yep.
and it's like Lord of the Hobbit throughout 3 movies can barely satisfies one character arc.
Is there even one satisfied character?
Just the Bilbo one, in my opinion,
Is
but
Bilbo even satisfied though? Like,
in the first movie, but then after that, he has nothing to do, and
in
it's just
like,
crazy how like much thought was put into Lord of the Rings movies, and just
yeah.
how in the Hobbit it's just like let's make big bombastic fight scenes, and that's what people are gonna care about.
I think this movie also started because at least in Unexpected Journey they try to give the dwarves some individual characteristics. And
Yeah,
this one they're just an amalgamation of Thorin. Like it's
yeah,
just Thorin and the other, and then Keeley because Keeley's hot and he's different. And you get it.
yeah,
You get it because he has a love triangle. It's because he's hot and he doesn't. He
yeah.
looks like Aragorn. Um, it's Thorin and Keeley and then the other people, and then that like one fat barrel dwarf, and then the one bald dwarf, and then the
The
old
old
dwarf,
wise dwarf,
old wise dwarf, and then the brother dwarf of
the one who
Keeley.
puts like the thing in his ear to listen.
What? There's a dwarf who put something in his ear.
Yeah,
Who
to
are
hear.
who are the dwarves that stay with Keeley?
I don't know.
Can you can you come on, Matt? Can you give me no? All right.
Dwaylen, maybe, I don't know.
See, I just this movie has soured on me even while talking about it a little bit. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
Um. All right, okay, so let's go real quick to Hallmark sequences. I know we kind of touched on it, but let's do Hallmark sequences for Desolation of Smaug. What's yours?
the forest scene.
The forest scene?
Yep.
Yeah, I'm gonna do the forest spider scene. All right, what about Mark's sleepy time moment? And if you're not aware of that, Mark likes to fall asleep while watching
All right.
movies.
So yeah. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. Mark likes to fall asleep while watching movies, wake up, clap, 4 stars, praises it to high heavens, but it's actually just kind of like our moments we don't really like of the movie.
Yeah, my sleepy time moments have to be whenever people fight. Um,
Man, that's like in 2 hours and 15 minutes of this movie. Damn.
and then so those my Mark sleepy time moments. Anytime people are fighting, like whether it be Smaug or the man bear pig fight
Yeah.
or um the barrel fight, and then my black hat moments, which are scenes that we abhorred, that we hate,
Except I love
spies.
Black Hat.
My black hat scenes are anytime Keely's on screen.
You just I wish I could have been a fly in the room every time Keely came on because I would have loved to see you roll your eyes and just go on your phone. Like, fuck, okay, this is 5 minutes. My Mark sleepy time moments, anytime time like things just logistically don't make sense. Like I talked about the fact that Bilbo's character, his one character trait of being intelligent and being like the riddle solver is completely null and void by the fact that all he did to solve this was just not quit as early. And it's just
Yeah.
like you didn't solve it by your intelligence. You just happened to just not want to give up as fast. That was that. Black Hat moments. I really fucking hate the Smog sequence, man. I really thought I would like it as much, but I was watching it and could not wait for it to be over. I was like, okay, cool. I think it has a cool cliffhanger. Like I like the cliffhanger like that. It feels like the gold is like fluttering off in the wind to Smog, and he's like, "I am fire, I am death," and you're like,
Yeah.
"That's kind of cool." You're like, "I like that." I don't like the start of this movie. I don't like a lot of this movie. I hate the barrel
I'm
sequence.
like really negative in this movie now.
Yeah, no,
Like
it's
there's
really
something Unexpected Journey. Like I feel like I defended the movie like in my
yeah.
mind, so like things kind of stay the same. But for this movie, it's like, man, I really did not like a lot about it.
It's a very like
Especially comparing it to my favorite Lord of the Rings movie,
yeah.
the Two Towers. Now it's like there's just so much great character work and so much like great craftsmanship in that movie,
Yeah.
and it's just not. Its thought is absent in Desolation of
So
Smaug.
real quick, because I think we talked about it last time. Can you rank your Lord of the Rings movies for me?
Two Towers, Return of the King, Fellowship, but like it's like 1A, 1B, 1C basically.
Yeah. Mine's actually exactly flipped. Fellowship, Return of the King, Two Towers, but again, 1A, 1B, 1C. Like it's really hard to pick.
They're
like,
all like they all work best
yeah.
as a trilogy.
Yeah. Have you also we probably should clarify at the beginning, we're not watching the fucking extended editions of The Hobbit.
No.
The fact that they are there and they're apparently so long, I would rather avoid that with my life. But there's also like some of the things where I might really dislike this movie, we may have talked ourselves really into disliking it. There's still like this certain like charm. Does that like
Because this reminds you of Lord of the Rings.
I think that's what it is. Is that the best way to put it? Where I'm like, man, it's Middle Earth. Like it's like there's just like a certain like intrigue about it.
It's like watching like a gruesome murder on screen, but there's like emoji smiley faces all around it.
You're like,
And it's like, oh,
oh,
that wasn't that bad.
a gruesome murder to like the Eagles or something like that. Like you're like, oh, it's the Eagles though. You're enjoying it.
Yeah.
You're good. You're freaking vibing to like try and love again while someone's just being stabbed. You're like, oh, nice. You're like, okay, cool.
Playing blinding lights during like an execution scene. You're like, oh, well, that could have been worse.
Yeah, you're like, you know what? You just kind of start up and dance a little bit. You're just like, oh man.
Yeah.
Man, I don't like this. You start like, what are the hip cool? You start doing like the TikTok dance moves or whatever.
No, it was TikTok. I'd hate it more.
Okay, that makes sense.
TikTok is like the dumbest thing.
Do you want to grade this piece of shit?
It's $1 million.
They're making more money than we are.
Yeah.
So, do you want to grade this movie?
I'd rather have my pride.
I'd rather talk about the Desolation of Smaug.
Yeah, Warner Bros. Yeah, I'll sell out.
You want us to cancel our review of Battle 5 Armies and praise it? Sure.
Yeah. How much you paying me?
$3. Why not? How little would you sell out to give Battle of 5 Armies a good review?
$100.
Really? I'd do it for less, honestly. Like if they like just mail me like $20.
They give me free passes to like the next Warner Bros. Movie. It's like Dune. I'd probably sell out.
It's gonna be on HBO. Oh my god. You get another phone call? We'll be right back.
Yeah. Oh.
As you can see, Matt looks even more exhausted than Matt. He just got a phone call. Basically, let's grade this thing. Let's get it over with. Let's be done with this. Matt, we grade stuff on an A, B, C, D, F scale here. No plus or minuses. Ultimately, it kind of hurts us in the long run. It actually just hurts me because now my A's and B's apparently mean nothing because I like Black Hat and the Marine.
Yeah.
But Matt, I gave this movie 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd. Before this review, I would have given it a C. But I think I have talked myself down into a D. The more I think about it, the more I don't like this movie.
Yeah.
I thought I did. My Letterboxd review, don't look at it. This movie kind of sucks.
I'm going to give it the lowest C possible.
Wow, really?
Again, I think what you said, just being conditioned into just seeing Lord of the Rings-esque things and thinking positively about it.
Damn.
Like, we've been dumping on this movie a lot, but there's good stuff in it. It's just more fun to crap on all like the stupid decisions. And but when you compare it to Helm's Deep, it's just Two Towers. It's just not on the same level by any means.
What good stuff
it is
in
like
there?
The lowest C I can possibly give it.
What's good stuff in there is what good stuff is besides the spider
Things
stuff?
look like they're from Lord of the Rings.
That's a good one. It does have I don't know. Like I think about the Smaug sequence. I think about how just like I watched it and went, I'm really tired. I want to go to bed. It was like 9:30. I was like, I'm tired. So yeah, I given that a D. Matt, you're giving that a fat low C.
Yeah.
We are clearly not fans of this trilogy, and you will feel even more, validated by that opinion when we talk about Battle of the 5 Armies in like a week or something like that.
Yeah.
And we ultimately just kind of sit here and go, like, sure. Yeah, that was really fun, Matt. What are we doing? This will probably be out after our Sunday review, but if they happen to watch this before they watch it, what are we recording next? What's going on?
Mank, the new Netflix movie, the adventure. And then we're doing Sympathy for Lady Vengeance, concluding part 1 of our Park Chan-wook director series for next weekend. And no, wait, we're doing Westerns next weekend.
We are.
Maybe we should push that to the weekend.
Maybe we should push that until another week so we can watch
more Cyberpunk's coming out, and I kind of want to. I'm probably gonna play that.
Wait, when's it come out? On Thursday?
Yeah.
Oh, let's push the Westerns. We haven't even consulted Mark, but Mark
hasn't watched a single Western.
Mark hasn't watched a single Western.
Yeah.
That's right, because we have to watch fucking 3 movies with that.
Yeah, let's do Lady Vengeance next weekend, because it would be my pick anyways.
Yeah.
Like,
no,
so we can switch them.
Wait, is it your recommendation? No, you recommended Cold War, and then after that would be. Do you like how on our podcast we like to just plan out our schedule?
Very, want to include people in the.
Yeah, this is how we want you to be part of our Film Frauds family, even though we hate all of you. Yeah, let's do. You know what, guys? We're recording this on Saturday the 5th, so you just get a sense of when we're recording this. We're recording Mank tomorrow, then we're going to record Sympathy, then we'll do Mark's recommendation, and then we'll do Westerns.
All right.
We might even push it back further. Honestly, we'll get to our Westerns at some point in December.
Yeah.
Some point in December, we'll do Westerns.
We'll have time off, so
yeah,
like, we can like record it on like a Wednesday or something.
Yeah, we'll get it all done. So, Matt, call to action.
Like, comment, subscribe, comment for your phone fraud as long as it's me. Rank your Lord of the Rings Hobbit movies if you feel so inclined. Let me know how much you value Tyler's opinions on movies. Tell me what an A from Tyler means to you.
God damn it.
All Black Hat and Nosferatu the Vampire roast are encouraged.
Yep.
Especially if they're directed towards Tyler.
If one of the other 3 Black Hat fans, want to reach out and offer me some sympathy.
No.
They're out there. There are people like this. Look on Letterboxd. Look at the top 3 of the reviews. I'll give it 5 stars.
The reviews are Tyler, not Tyler. Definitely not Tyler.
I actually want to see if there's any names of Tyler who give the top reviews on Black Hat, because if it is, then I can't talk anymore. I fucking love Black Hat. Black Hat's so great. It's not even I type in Black H and it's not even the first movie that comes up. Look, there's 5 stars, 4 stars, 4 stars, 4.5, 5, 4,
God, shut up.
4.5, 2, 3, 5, 4.5, 5, 4, 0, what, a half? Oops. Okay. So yeah, that's a little post-podcast banter. All right, guys. Thank you guys for watching. We'll come back with Battle of 5 Armies in a week or so. We'll figure that out. All right. Thank you guys for watching. I gotta find a